Well, I'm going to cover a subject that I really don't talk much about, but I think it's one that will be very helpful to you. You know, I get a lot of people asking, in fact, it seems like a lot more people recently asking, how do you stop a painting halfway through and then come back and pick it up, a week or two later after it's totally dry? Well, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to that. And I'm going to show you here in the next few minutes how to navigate those challenges and give you a good understanding of how to pick up where you left off. So to begin the painting process, I'm just going to do everything like normal, but I'm going to stop halfway through and allow it to fully dry. And that may take as much as even a week. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to fix and how to navigate these challenges that you're going to face if you do the very same thing. But once you have these tips and tricks down, I think you're going to find it much easier to pick up where you left off if you have to do it that way. In my opinion, it's still not the best way to paint. If you can get it done while it's all wet, it is going to be simpler for at least the method that I show you how to use. And it seems like I'm getting this question almost every single day. With that being said, let's start the video. I'm going to start just painting normally, and I'll see you in a couple minutes. I'll let you know when it dries. Just like I normally would, I'm going to put on a little bit of clear gel and white. Of course, these are available on the website if you need them. Apart from that, I've got a basic little sketch here, or in some ways a slightly more detailed sketch than normal. You see this little bit of a mushy spot here? This is because I had the rocks out further than I want, and I brought them in. It allows me to, make these changes before all the paint goes down on the canvas, which is nice. So just because we're doing a how to stop halfway painting, I'm just showing you, hey, I do have clear gel and white down on the sky, just like I normally would. Also put just a little bit down in the water as well. That's what that is going to be, water. So now I've got a soft purpley color mixed up here. And I'm going right to the top of the sky because I just want to paint in a feeling, just a little bit of a, that's a little bit more on the red side than I was thinking it would be. So let me just add a little bit more blue. That's why you got to sometimes test it up on the canvas. There, a little more blue. I like that. Okay, I'll just allow that to float. I want a very light sky, so let me lighten that up just a little with some titanium white there. All right, there you go. That's my little spot in the sky. Hey, before we go too far, let's take a look at the paintings that you guys did in my last one. Now it is fun, it's really fun to see what you guys are up to. Regardless of if you do this painting in 2 days or 1 day, share it using the information on the screen, and I will get it in the next video if I see it in time. So now I'm going to take some white. I'm going to take just a little tiny speck of red there. See that? Okay. White and just a little speck of red. Kind of an old crusty brush, but I think it'll be all right. It's mostly white. Mostly white. Now, right up in here, right against it, that's a little thick and heavy. At least let me take a 2-inch brush or something. I'm just going to spread it. I just didn't like the texture. I saw a lot of brush stroke in it. I don't really need to do the shop towel thing on this because really nothing's going over it. So now I'm going to take my white. Wow, slightly dirty brush, but that's okay. See that? A little bit of green in that brush. Maybe I won't use that brush anymore. Maybe I'll pick a different brush. But you see, sometimes things happen. So there's a clean brush. Sometimes it does pay to clean your brushes. Sometimes it pays to clean them really well. Yeah. There we go. And you see, I'm just going to bring in some of these little clouds. Just like so. That's nice. See that? You don't have to agonize over things like this. I'm just almost closing my eyes and throwing it in because it doesn't really matter. Every time you paint clouds, they're going to come out different. It's just the way it is. Now I've got a brand new clean brush. I wanted to make sure it was actually going to be clean. So new brush. It should be clean. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes here just refining some of these edges, softening a little bit at the edges, constantly wiping on a paper towel. That way, by wiping on the paper towel, I'm not painting, I'm mostly blending. And I'm taking some of these colors and sort of mushing them around until I get an effect that I'm more or less happy with. Oh, I also need to take a minute and thank our Patreon members. If you guys are interested in signing up for Patreon, we've got all kinds of fun stuff, live streams and Q&As and sometimes just random stuff and reaction videos and of course our really detailed full-length, 5-hour lessons. Those are there too if you're interested in something like that. So you can check out the link there. Should be the first link in the description if you're at all interested. Now I'm going to take some black and some of our sky color, purples and whatnot, you know. A little bit of burnt umber is okay as well. I'm going to make just a mountain color somewhere in there. We'll just test it. A little more blue, not much. I want it fairly gray. Let's go up here. It works. I like to just mix paint over paint because it actually gives you a better overall effect. So there you go. Now I'm going to take some white, a little bit of our yellow ochre, mostly white, a little bit of red. Okay, just a nice warm color. And I'm going to use this to, yes, underpaint just my water. Remember, I do have clear gel and white on this water, so it's very easy to get this filled in with color. You see, that's a little warm. I don't know, just reflects maybe a little warmth. I don't know. We have some warmth in the sky, not much. So now I've got this kind of a grayish green color mixed up, and I'm going to use this to place in my trees. Now, I'm not going to go anywhere near as crazy. This is my yellow ochre. I like that. Oh, the ochre's so pretty. I'm not going anywhere near as crazy as last week. I've had enough of large trees, but for the sake of this painting, I also wanted large trees, even though I'm very tired of painting them, at least for a week or two. There you go. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you need to get in over on Patreon. We spent about 5 hours painting trees, it seemed like. There you go. Just gonna block these in fairly quickly. And you'll notice, you know, I'm not totally done. I think I want a little more detail in that background, but I'm going to wait until it dries because that kind of increases the difficulty of this. I'm purposely, in some ways, in many ways really, I'm purposely, for the sake of this lesson, I'm trying to make it hard. I'm going to stop in inconvenient places, and then whenever I pick up here next week or whenever I get around to filming the next part of this video, I will explain kind of where I left off and about why I left off there and show you better ways to do some things, and then you can just get ideas. I'm going to do my best to explain things next time, not so much this minute here. Well, of course, not next time for you. It's going to be the same video, obviously, but you know, you get the idea. Now, just really in keeping with the theme of this painting, which is basically just get this in as quick as possible and let it dry. You know, I'm really not going to go too far with any of this. I'm not going to establish anything completely. Nothing will be done. Well, maybe the sky is done. Maybe the background's close to it, although I might do a little more work in there just to show you kind of how to do it. But look at this, see? Bring in some of these boulders and rocks. Just, you know, just knowing that, hey, they are gonna dry. So I'm just establishing these right now, some of the darks. Obviously I do have highlights, but this is kind of my shadowy. I will have the highlight kind of on top. There, I like that. Just establishing a few more of these boulders and rocks here to show, hey, there's a little something going on. Just a little something. I will also, while we're going, I'm just going to take some, I don't know, just some sap green and whatnot. It doesn't really matter. Some of our yellow ochre. And I'm just going to scrub in our grassy areas, just like so. This is, again, just underpainting, and we'll establish the rest later. Now, I'm just removing a little bit of this paint with a shop towel. You're wondering, oh, why are you doing that? Come on, aren't you going to, you know, let it dry? Are we never free from this shop towel? Well, there's my roll, by the way. Just come in a big blue roll, just like a regular paper towel, except they don't fall apart, which is nice. Anyway, my point here is I'm trying to get off all this texture, get off all the texture that I can, make this area reasonably smooth. I'm trying not to destroy my variations, but it's got to be smooth. Well, that's as far as I'm going. I'm going to let this painting completely dry. And when we pick up in the next clip here, the painting will be totally dry. And this is certainly going to be interesting. I did not pick a subject that was going to be easy. In fact, I purposely picked one that I thought would be kind of hard to show you kind of the worst case scenario. Maybe a seascape would be possibly worse. We may have to revisit this and do this on a seascape. Let me know in the comments section if you'd be interested in basically the same kind of video, but just for different types of paintings. Let me know. If there's enough interest, I might do that. All right, let's get back to painting. All right, well, here we go. A brand new day. It's been actually probably about a week since I last filmed on this, last painted it. It is extremely dry. I mean, like dry. It is very, very, very dry. Nothing coming off of there. My palette knife is dirty, but other than that, even my white is dry, okay? Everything is dry. Good. So now, with that being said, I'm going to take a filbert brush. I've actually filmed in between this, so, you know, I've done other projects and I've come back to this. Now, I'm going to take just some yellow ochre. Of course, I've got my palette reset. All right, take some yellow ochre, take some burnt umber, and just some sap green. And here's what I'm going to do. It's like, where do you even start? Well, I'm just going to pick up right where we left off. If this was all wet, this is what I'd be painting, this area down here. So I'm going to do it. Okay, lighting is kind of coming through the painting like so. Let's go ahead and just, I don't want too much color on this side, but I do want some. I'm just going to grind it in. You'll find that this is a little bit more effort to apply some of your underpainting stages. And I actually want to use, because I'm not going to be wiping off the canvas too much at this point, I'm really not using too much paint. I don't want to be using too much paint at all. There you go. I'm just underpainting a basic tree. I wouldn't say in any way that this is harder. Like, this is pretty standard. There may be a couple of things that are kind of tricky, but this is pretty standard. Now, I'm getting a scratchiness here that I'm really not going to worry about. You know, I'm just not. It's going to be fine. There we go. It just looks like just extra texture. If it begins to bother me, I'll let you know, and then I'll tell you how to kind of address it. But so far, so good. Now, right up in here, maybe just another little bit. This isn't going to be a full, you know, I'll give you the highlights. This isn't a full, I'm going to show you every last little brush stroke because it would take forever. I'm just going to give you the highlights. However, over on Patreon, I'm going to do a longer version of this. So if you need more information on how to do it, you can find it over on Patreon. Very quickly, I wanted to show you this area. I'm actually fighting some flatness here. Yes, that is a proper art term. You see, this is a little on the flat side. I'm like, I'm not getting what I want, you know? It's flat. Well, the reason it's flat is because I'm not getting my normal mixing. When it mixes, you know, well, the oils mix, and I get all this beautiful things. So this is more like an acrylic painting at this point. I'm gonna take some of my darker tones here and see everything happens now on the palette, and at least until I begin to work my wet paint back up on the canvas again. But so more or less everything is here. Going to be, the action is going to happen on the palette, not on the canvas. So if I want a shadow, I've got to drop that shadow in manually. And then this is exactly what I'm doing. See that? Boom. And now I've got a little more form to that bush. Is that perfect? No, but it's the direction that I want to head. I like that. I'm glad we're headed in that direction. What direction? I don't know, but it looks better than it did. So it's the direction that we want to go. Let's get a little more shadow in here. I just wanted to point that out because you're going to face that, probably the same problem. And that's how you correct it. You just need to add your shadows in. See this adding the shadows in and around because it's all dry. Got all that wet paint going on top of the dry paint. It's just a little different. Not really harder, but it is different. Now I've got just a dark color here, and all my dark colors mixed together. Not perfectly black, a little lighter than that, but not much. Right in here, I need more contrast. So I'm going to add this in. This is called dry brush blending. If you paint acrylics, you're like, oh, I know that. If you don't, then this may be a little different, but it's called dry brush blending. And what it is a wet color across a dry background. And because, you know, so little of it is applied, it looks sort of transparent, and the transparentness is exactly what makes it look like it's blended, even though technically it's not mixing with the color underneath. Make sense? That bush is too tall. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come around here and just see about darkening up some of this forest just here so I can get that much better contrast. Let's see, like that, and just, you know, anywhere you, boom, there we go. Anywhere you think it might need it. So you got to put that shadow. I think that's the hardest part of painting dry. It may not look so bad on the camera, like, oh, it looks like you're doing fine. But the thing is, like, if this is not, the darks are not going in the way that I want them to, you know, my lights are overpowering everything because there is no dark to work into. Could you put the dark down first? Yes, you could. And you may want to do that. I don't find it necessary because you can just do exactly what I did just there. And pop your darks back in afterward. Doesn't matter. You can do it one way or another, so it does not make a lot of difference. I'm going to take some black and burnt umber here, and I'm going to sculpt out a little bit of this rock action here. This rock here is not quite the way I want it, so let me adjust a couple things real quick. First off, I'm going to, boy, this is this is quite interesting. Look at all that dried texture. Even though we did try to limit it, as I recall. There we go. Okay, yeah, good. Maybe. There we go. Boom. Yeah, I like that. I like that. See what that did? Because it kind of popped that forward. Now, this is going to be like a drop off. We'll put some grass. So this is distinctly different from that. Okay. I don't want to do too much yet. Let me see. Get that. This one here. Get a few of these darker. I'm just going with black and brown and just maybe a little red and blue. Green is okay too. Just trying to work in some of these darker sections now, which I mean is in some ways a bonus. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a few advantages. There is more disadvantages to doing it this way than there are advantages. Getting those nice dark black contrasty areas is about the only advantage. That and then your highlights. There we go. Anyways, yeah, I'm beginning to pop out some of those rocks, and I think I like that a little better. Yeah. Okay. Just play around with this for a minute. Even right here, just boom. See a couple of sharper tones right there to indicate a couple better rocks. I'm going to take some sort of a light, well, kind of a light tannish purple. Okay. Some sort of a light tan purple with some umber in it, some yellow ochre, and then obviously blue and red. Yeah, anything like that. I'm fairly light. Not that red. I'll find it. Don't worry. What if we put a little green in it? What would happen? I don't know, but we just did. I do know it would actually turn it more brown. But a cooler brown. There we go. Okay. Let me wipe some of that out. Grab some more. Because again, most of this is happening here on the palette. And not on the canvas, which is kind of a setback. Now, right in here, I'm going to try to place in a few flat areas, dirt, rock. This reads more like rock to me. You know, you can totally let the viewer decide. And you know, if you think it looks like dirt instead of rock, I'm cool with that. There you go. Anyway, boom, that's in. It doesn't look quite right just yet, but it will. Probably. Here we go. Let's get the rest of that in. A little bit just shadowy rock there. Again, a flat, I want that to kind of be like a flat rock. On this side, some, ooh, that's brighter. There we go. Soften that back. To add some of the dirty color kind of in the back of my brush, the darker color. That came out when I tilted my brush back, and I could just soften that right out. Okay, so there you have it. You know what? Is it perfect? No. But I'm beginning to move in the direction that I want, and I'm not going to be overly critical of each step. I'm going to kind of let the process unfold little by little. Here's some lighter yellow. And with that, you know, that's too weird of a color, though. Let's soften that color down a little. But yet keep it kind of in the yellow zone. I'm showing you a little more than I typically show you. I'm really trying to teach you as much as I can without getting into the whole long lesson, which you can find on Patreon. You know, I'm trying to get you a lot of information here. And so I'm kind of just showing you this. I rushed through the beginning stage a little bit. At least I will. In the editing phase, I will skip through the first, the wet portion, because you're all used to seeing that. And I'm going to kind of lengthen this portion a little. Show you a little more than I normally do on these videos, which are mostly here for inspiration. You know, my teaching stuff is really not here. But there you go. If you've never picked up any of my DVDs or download lessons, or you're not part of Patreon, you're missing out. That's my best stuff is over there. Now I've got this nice light yellow, basically very similar to what we got up here. And I'm just bringing out a couple more comma strokes to these. trees. I did put some there. And I just want a couple here. Do I want some there? Yeah, I probably do. I probably do. There you go. There you go. So what this is doing is creating that much more detail. This is pretty easy, and it is mixing now. I've got a couple of layers of paint. Thankfully, I can just tell you, it is more fun to work on a wet painting than it is on a dry painting, except with acrylics. I love acrylics, and to me, acrylics are just as much fun as oil. But for some reason, they're not as painful when they're dry. For some reason, this oil, it's probably just because I'm not used to it. I'm sure that if you got used to it, then working on a dry, I mean, isn't that the way paintings were classically made? Yeah, for the most part, they would allow the layers to dry. So I'm sure it's totally normal. It's just I'm not used to it. And most of them I am pulling out of my acrylic painting toolbox. Okay, there you go. Layers, just a few layers, not a ton of layers of these little comma strokes. I've got some sap green, yellow, white, a little blue even, and mud. And I'm just adding in some grass. Beautiful little highlights. Actually, I want a lot of grass down in here. So I'll do that. I'll add a lot of grass, and I'll have this distinctive slope to my grass. It feels weird. I feel like I should be painting around the rocks. This is a texture that's not going to work for me. So I'm just putting color on. I don't like the texture. I know it. I see it. I'm going to fix it. But again, I mentioned this earlier. You know, I'm just going to be a little more, I'm already like that anyways, where I just, whatever happens is okay. But even more because I know it's not going to look right on the first pass or even the first few passes of color. Not going to look right. And it's not going to be until I get a couple layers of paint down, even within this grass, that it's going to begin to look like my normal grass. I'm not going to be happy with it probably until then. Okay, see that? And I'm actually going to take and brush it. Try to overcome some of the fact that there just isn't any paint down there to work this into. There we go. Some wet paint on that rock there. It was nice to have it. Excellent. But you see how I can work this and begin to create that effect that I want. Okay? Now, do I want to highlight? Absolutely. And I want that highlight to have just a little blue in it. There we go. Red even. There we go. This is not crazy bright. Not too yellowy. That's kind of pretty. A little more yellow. Yellow ochre, I don't know. I'm just playing around, but honestly, I just need to get some of this highlight, the color down. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. This is short grass. This is not real tall. The light, of course, coming here, so leave that shadow there. And then there. Good. I see something. I see something developing that I'm happy with. That's good. Now over here, I'm not as happy. Actually, I like that, but I don't like the dark, or I don't like the fact that there's no dark there. Well, let me finish up here. Again, I kind of have to stop myself because I want to get in there and fix it. But okay, now let's take just a little bit of darker color and begin to have something to. Now I've got some clear gel that I just squirted out, and I've got a nice kind of a light tan color going on here. Even a little bit of black in it. Okay, help it become a little grayer. Now, we're coming here to maybe the most interesting part of probably the painting, the landscape today, which is going to be doing these rocks while they're dry. I mean, because I put a little black down. The black is wet, but it's mostly dry. It's not like I repainted my rocks. I don't want to do that. That's kind of not the point of the lesson. You don't need a video on how to repaint something that you've already done. I'm picking up where I left off. So with that thin paint, I think that's pretty important. You can use, whatever you want to thin it. I just like that clear gel. I think it works pretty well. I'm going to just create now a couple of these little layers within the rock. That's pretty good. That reads like a rock. It reads like a boulder, I'm going to wipe most of the paint out of the brush, so I just have a dusting of paint. Just a dusting of paint in that brush. And I'm going to just... Of course, it's wet there. I kind of forgot about that. I didn't really anticipate that. That's hilarious. I was just going to dry brush blend a little to kind of create a mid-tone. Yeah, that definitely looks rock. like to me. That passes for a rock, I'd say. Pretty straightforward, actually. So there you go, right up in here. I'm just going to continue doing the same thing here. I'm going to show you again. That one's pretty bright. I'm honestly almost highlighting with a darker color, which is weird. That's probably not great, but anyway, there you go. Let's see about, yeah, that looks pretty good. Remember, a little bit of that dark is wet. Just laid it down a minute ago. Oh yeah, big slice right there. Big slice right there. That's excellent. And we'll just continue over and over until we get the result we want. But you see, it's not that much different from a regular painting. Because it's thinned down, it's actually going on pretty normally. This one's totally dry there at the top. I'm still wet at the bottom because of that color I laid down, and it's really acting quite normal. I like that. It's a good trick. Add a little bit of that black in before you start doing your rock. Now let me grab some burnt umber and what's left of my yellow ochre. I'll kind of mix the yellow ochre with my Hansa yellow and with my red, okay? And you know what? This is going to be probably equally as interesting as the rocks. It's not totally black. Because think about it, if you put totally black over this dry, I mean, it's going to be totally black. So this approximates, you know, it mixing as it normally would. It's not totally black. Okay, so here we go. I've got a tree. You know, let's thin that down just a little. I want it to be, if I don't thin that down just a little with some of that clear gel, it's going to be too, I'm wiping some of the paint off. It's going to be too scratchy. It's already going to be scratchy as it is. Where do I want that tree to stop? Let's figure that out first. How about right here? It stops right about there. Let me put a little point down. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop. And this tree comes up somewhere in this vicinity. There we go. Boom. As simple as that. Pretty simple. And right up in here, I've also got another one. Let's do this one right here. Nice and thick. See, I've got that texture to contend with, but that's all right. It'll be okay. A little bigger. Let's thicken this one up just a little. You can always make them wider. A little harder to shrink them. It's doable. We've done it before together, haven't we? But it's a little harder. Yeah. Hey, let's highlight that very quickly just with some color. Just some leftover color. I don't know, just mud. Just mud. And I'm going to highlight that with a filbert brush. There. Probably put a highlight on, an extra highlight with a liner brush or something, but it just gets me started. And a little bit here as well. Now I've got some sap green, burnt umber, red, and blue together here in the brush. And just right up here somewhere, let's go ahead and begin. We're going to begin popping on some level of detail. I'm going to thin that color down to make it flow. So I'm thinning that. Let me get just a little more yellow ochre into it so it's not so black. It just looks black on the canvas there. I don't like that at all. I'm going to thin that down because typically, you know, no matter how hard you try, your limbs and leaves are never black because it mixes so easily with the painting. But of course, that's not the case today. And therefore, I got to add a little lighter color to it. Simple as that. It's, you know, pretty common sense. I think a lot of this is more common sense than you might think. I get so many questions. I cannot tell you how many questions I've gotten for how to do this, how to restart a painting. And you know what? It's more, I think, just a mental thing. I think it's more like just I don't know what to do. Because if you stop and think about it, you're like, oh, okay, it's pretty basic. It's actually very common sense. Do exactly what you think you should. It's probably the right thing. Yeah, there you go. See that? Just doing exactly what I think I should. It's not like I do this all the time. I'm just winging it. It's working out okay though. That's a rugged old tree. Wow, that tree looks bad in a good way. Yes, I put some limbs. We can do that. Should we wait for the liner brush? Probably. But I do have that paint just thinned down some with the clear gel. Again, I'm thinning with clear gel. You can thin with whatever you like. Thin with linseed oil if you want to. But the clear gel, for me, works out pretty good. All right, now minus just a few highlights here, on the trees, which I'm going to do right now. We're basically getting to where we're done with the foreground, and we're going to have to think about that background. So keep that in mind. But about ready to start thinking about the background. But right up here, let's go ahead and just place on a little highlight just by touching, dabbling. This is fairly straightforward, pretty normal because I do have a wet. This would be different if I had painted the tree and then I had, let it dry. Then it would be back to like the rocks, but this is normal right here. Okay, there we go. And I'll just spend a few minutes, it won't be a long time, just dabbling out a few of these details here. There you go. Yeah, that's fun. Just little by little, get this working. A little bit on the warm side, not too vivid green, more a little bit warmer, because it ties in more with my autumn trees and stuff. Those are mostly evergreens back there, but there are some autumn trees in there also. Now I've got a thin down, so thin with clear gel, a thin down color here I don't want much, for just a little color here in the background. See, I finished the foreground because that's I just think that was the thing to do. Now we're gonna go back and mess around here with the background ever so slightly. Yeah, there we go. Almost think that should be darker. I'm gonna put a little mud with it just to darken it a little. Yeah, there it is. I just want to get a little color. We're not gonna go crazy like we did the other day. We're just going to get a little bit of color on these just to show, hey, yeah, okay, there's a little action on these distant evergreens. That's what these are, evergreen trees, distant evergreens. And we don't want to close off the valley, where it looks like there's no sunlight getting down. See, there's this dark section, and that's good. I like that, but a little light getting down here now. Okay, even just a few scattered right in through here. Very simple. I don't want this to show much. Boom. That's probably good enough right there. Okay, yeah, but just a big difference. Even the little bit that I did there is just a big difference. So let me get just a little mud. And with that mud, I'm gonna raise up just a couple trees here just to show. You know what, that mud's needs a little blue and red. I kind of want a purpley mud. Check this out. See, this is part of the color matching is actually part of the deal when it comes to this. Because see, I want it to kind of be similar to what was there, which as I squint my eyes and I look at it, looks like a purpley mud. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, get just a little better sharpness on that little distant lake. I don't want it to be as fuzzy as it was. So there you go, boom. Just a little better. Having said that, this is good. This is why I want to show you kind of some of this old tedious back and forth, but having said that, I think it's a little too sharp. So let me just adjust that. So there you go. See, I'm just now trying to get a better shape. There, it's not perfect, but at least I'm beginning to establish, hey, there's a little something back there. Back to my highlight. Let's just put a little light on these trees also. What I want to do next is, yes, that looks pretty good. That's definitely pretty good. What I want to do next is I want to get a little life, a little color using some of these tones here. Just a little life and a little color back here. Not much. Just a sprinkle, a smattering of something. This is dry brush blending or glazing. So that is thinned down. All this right here is just clear gel for the most part. A little blue. I want that grayed down a little. Yeah. Blue recedes. Kind of grayish purple again. Again, I'm showing you more than I normally do. I'm showing you a lot of the color mixing and stuff that you normally only get like on DVDs and stuff. But I'm showing this to you so you really kind of get a feel for what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I'm trying to really get you to learn, here. I want to really show you what's going on because there's been so many questions on this. And again, I've got this lesson, but I've got all the brush strokes. If you need all the brush strokes, I've got them all over on Patreon. Links, of course, are in the description. I think you'll find it very useful. Yeah, see how I just do, boom, a few of these, and I'm just dragging. This is dry brush blending. I'm just dragging this over, trying to get that look of just a little life there in the background. I'm going to run a little blue line here on the back side of the tree to create the reflected light. That looks pretty good. There's my color. Thin down with a little linseed oil. Use anything you want to, though. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Get some of those more fine branches, even with that color. I think that's nice. It kind of is more similar to mixing, with background colors when you do that. See that? Because the tip of the branches often will get a little lighter automatically when you paint normally. Yeah, there you go. Just basics, super simple. I just wanted to show you. Just make a note that that's what I'm doing. Excellent. And then your rocks, you can do the same as well on these rocks. Well, that wraps up our painting for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and of course the Patreon. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. It helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.